Hello all. In this video, we are going to continue our topic discussion on this topic Mahajanapadas based on the text of Upinder Singh, and this is part 3. The name of this chapter is Cities, Kings and Renaissance North India between 600 and 300 BC. As part of this, in the last episode, we have discussed extensively and comprehensively covered about the 16 Mahajanapadas. And among these 16 Mahajanapadas, the most important one was this Magadha. And here we are going to discuss about this Magadhan Empire. So let's get started. You can locate Magadha in this map here, Magadha. And in Magadha, there we can see some important early dynasties such as the Haryanka Dynasty, followingly Shishunagas and Nanda dynasties. These three dynasties, they made this Magadha into a big and a great Magadhan state through the policy called as Magadhan imperialism. So we are going to discuss about this Magadhan imperialism through these dynasties. As part of this, the most important rulers are the Bimbisara, Ajatasatru and the next 4 Haryanka kings, and comes the Shishunaga kingdom and finally the Nandas. By the contributions of these rulers and these dynasties, the Magadha became the most important among the 16 Mahajanapadas, and finally what we can see, this Magadhan imperialism eventually led to the formation of the first empire in the history of India, that is the Mauryan Empire. In this video, we will be discussing about the first and most important dynasty, that is the Haryanka Dynasty. We will be discussing about these Shishunagas and Nandas in the next video. So regarding this Haryanka dynasty, the most important rulers were Bimbisara, Ajatasatru, then comes Udayin and some other following rulers. So what we can see, the most important rulers of this dynasty were Bimbisara and later his son Ajatasatru. They ruled between 545 and continued till 462 BC. And the total period of this Haryanka dynasty can be understood from this 545 till 413 BC. We can discuss more about these rulers, beginning with Bimbisara. He ruled between 545 and 493 BC. And we can see the Magadha's imperialism or the Magadha's gradual political supremacy that began with this person, Bimbisara. And he had one title, Senya, otherwise called as Shreniga. As per this Buddhist text, this title, Senya, that indicate that he was initially a Senapati, a commander-in-chief, probably of the Vajjis. So we have already discussed about 16 Mahajanapadas. Among them was Vajjis in the Nepal region, and it was a confederacy. It is believed that the king Bimbisara, he was initially the Senapati of these Vajji people, and later he eventually established in Magadha. And according to Ashokasha's Buddha Charita, Bimbisara, he belonged to the Haryanka Kula. So the family of Bimbisara is Haryanka. That's why the dynasty is referred as Haryanka Dynasty. And his capital was at Girivaraja, otherwise called as Rajagriha. So Rajagriha, otherwise Girivaraja, was the capital of Bimbisara. The most important political expansion and supremacy of this Magadhan state was established by Bimbisara through matrimonial alliance. So matrimonial alliance was one of the major features of this period. And what we can see, the king Bimbisara, he married Mahakosala. Mahakosala was the sister of King Prasenajit of Kosala. So we have already mentioned about different Mahajanapadas, in which the most important was Magadha, along with what we can see, the Kosala state. And the Kosala state and Magadha had some kind of matrimonial relationship during the period of Bimbisara. And the king Bimbisara, he married Mahakosala, the sister of King Prasenajit of Kosala. As part of this marriage, what we can see, the state of Kashi that was given to this Magadhan state or Bimbisara as dowry by the king Prasenajit of Kosala. The king Bimbisara, he also married Videhan princess and Kema. Kema was the daughter of Madra, ruler of central Punjab. So what we can see, Bimbisara had many matrimonial relationship and alliance during this period. Regarding the political expansion of Bimbisara, we can see he led some military campaigns, especially towards Anga. We have already mentioned that the river Chamba that acted as a boundary between the state of Anga and Magadha. And what we can see, Bimbisara, he expanded and conquered this region Anga and later appointed his son Prince Kuniga, that is also the Ajatasatru as the governor of the state Chamba or the Anga state. And also we have one story regarding Bimbisara, that is, he sent his physician Jeevaga to attend to Pradyota, the king of Avanti. So what we can see, there was a cordial or friendship between the state of Avanti and Magadha during the time of Bimbisara, that we can see through the story of sending a physician named Jeevaga to Pradyota by Bimbisara. Next, we are going to understand the administration of Bimbisara. Regarding the administration, some important points are, there were around 1,000 villages, and as per this Buddhist text, what we can see, these villages were administered by Gramagas. So Gramagas were the officials who administered or who governed these villages. So what we can see, there was village administration during the time of Bimbisara. And there were some other officials called as Mahamatras. They were the high-ranking officials during the time of Bimbisara, and probably they had some kind of executive, judicial and military functions. Also, we have already mentioned about this title called as Seniya, meaning the Senapati role of Bimbisara. That might be the indicative of his standing army that maintained through the state revenue. So it shows the capacity of state revenue. There are some important references about Bimbisara in both Jainist and Buddhist texts. We can understand that. As per this Jainist text, what we can see, he was the follower of Mahavira. And according to Uttara Sutra, he visited Mahavira along with a retinue of wives, relatives and servants and became a devoted follower. So as per Jainist text, it is said that Bimbisara as a follower of Mahavira. And regarding the death of Bimbisara, the Jainist text says as Ajatasatru, the son of Bimbisara, he imprisoned his father in order to become king, and Bimbisara is said to have consumed poison and ended his own life. That is as per this Jainist text. At the same time, Buddhist text says as is the follower of Buddha, and as per Sutta Nipada of Buddhism, what we can see, there mentions two important meetings of Bimbisara and Buddha. And regarding the first meeting, that happened 7 years before Buddha's enlightenment, and the second meeting happened after Buddhahood, and Buddha and his disciples, they visited Rajagriha, the capital of the Magadhan state. And regarding the death of Bimbisara, Buddhist text says as he was killed by his son Kuniga, otherwise called as Ajatasatru. And what we can see, later Ajatasatru, he confessed his crime to Buddha. Next, we are going to understand the most important ruler, Ajatasatru, who ruled between 493 BC and continued till 462 BC. And during the time of Ajatasatru, we can see the steady expansion of Magadha after Bimbisara. And regarding the steady expansion or conquest of this Magadhan imperialism or Magadhan state, there was some important conflict, and the most important among them was the conflict with the Kosala state. We have already mentioned that during the time of Bimbisara, there were cordial relationship or matrimonial alliance between Bimbisara of Magadha state and King Prasenajit of Kosala state. But what we can see, after the death of this Bimbisara, there happened some kind of conflict between Ajatasatru and King Prasenajit. And after a battle, Ajatasatru, he reclaimed the Kashi from this Kosala state, and he also received the Kosala princess Vajira in marriage. So that was the supremacy of Magadhan state over the Kosala state. Also we can see Ajatasatru, he defeated the Chanda Pradyota of Avanti. So during his time, Ajatasatru's period, the Avanti's relationship also became in vain and he eventually conquered. So in this map, you can locate Magadha, Kosala state. One of the most important battles that was fought by this Ajatasatru was against the Lichavis. And according to Buddhist tradition, the cause behind this conflict says as that was instigated by these Lichavis, who broke their promise to share equally with Ajatasatru the contents of a jewel mine that was discovered at the foot of hill at port on Ganga. So there was an important jewel mine near to Ganga, and these Lichavis, they broke their promise that was equal share to be given to Ajatasatru. So that was the cause behind the conflict with the Lichavis. And what we can see during this time, the Lichavis, the confederacy group, the Vraji people, they were in their height of their supreme power and they were highly unified. So Ajatasatru thought that it is not wise to attack directly, so that he sent his minister Vasakara, and this Vasakara he went for an undercover mission to Lichavis, and he slowly created some kind of dissension within their ranks, or he created some kind of disunification among these Lichavis and other tribes of this confederacy. And finally what we can see, that strategy succeeded, and eventually Ajatasatru made his battle and conquered these Lichavis. And according to Jainist text, it is believed that Ajatasatru he used two important weapons during this war. One was the catapult, as you can see in this picture, and that had the power of hurling huge pieces of stones, and other one was a chariot, and this was his most important military weapons during this battle. And during this period itself, Ajatasatru he ordered for the fortification of one of his most important city, that is Pataligrama on the Gangetic Valley, and this later became the famous metropolis of Pataliputra. So what we can see, the city of Pataliputra that was going to be constructed by Ajatasatru. Like Bimbisara, there are some important Jainist and Buddhist references about Ajatasatru. As per Jainist text, he was the follower of Mahavira, and as per Buddhist text, he was the follower of Buddha. And Jainist text says as the king Ajatasatru he frequently visited Mahavira, and there were some kind of conversation between Mahavira and the king Ajatasatru at Vaishali and Chamba. Similarly, the Buddhist text also gives some important reference such as Ajatasatru he approaching the Buddha to express the remorse for his patricide. We have already mentioned that point. On the Buddha's demise, what we can see, Ajatasatru is said to have gone to Kusinara to claim a portion of his relics, and later he built many relics stubas around Rajagriha. And Buddhist tradition also described that King Ajatasatru he hosted the first Buddhist council immediately after the death of Buddha at Rajagriha. Another most important ruler of this Haryanka dynasty was Udayin. As per Buddhist and Jainist texts, the immediate successor of Ajatasatru was Udayabhadra or Udayin. That is according to Buddhist and Jainist texts. But at the same time, the Puranas that insert another ruler named as Darshaka before this king Udayin. Anyhow, what we can see, Udayin was one of important ruler of this Haryanka dynasty. The most important feature of this Udayin was he founded the city of Pataliputra. The early interval regarding this Pataliputra was done by Ajatasatru, but Udayin he made this into a great city, and also we can see he was the important follower of the Jaina, and later Udayin was succeeded by some other rulers. Later what we can see, the later weak rulers were overthrown by another king named as Shishunaga, hence establishing the Shishunaga dynasty. Thank you. Stay tuned for more updates and videos.